Greetings, everybody. Radaman here for episode 2 of Stellaris, the Alliance of Triac. So, last episode, we've tried to, I guess, if I was to summarize, survey out to the choke points as fast as we could. This episode, hopefully, we lock down some of those choke points. Just doing a little research here. So we've had a fair bit of luck about not running into too many potential enemies, but luck runs out, right? So I've got to prepare for the very high likelihood of needing to...
Hostile IFF
here we go.
Detected.
Those pirates we were waiting for so long have now shown up. So they have a fleet power of 189. I have a fleet power of... less than that. But the thing is, they're going to... they're engaging my construction ship, which is no good, but it warped out. What's going to happen here is they're going to eventually engage on my outpost here. And then, once they do, I'm going to send my fleet in to attack them.
Construction project concluded.
So it's all about timing, really, what it comes down to. Because they still outnumber me, and I don't have the ability, I don't have the money to hire an admiral, at the moment, but that's fine. This is par for the course. So instead of expanding to Gomissia, which is what I would absolutely prefer to do, I'm going to go expand here instead. I'll get Gomissia eventually. Alright, so they're taking down this research. Let me speed up the game a bit. They're taking down this research base, which is fine. What is my... let's see. My research mandate is half fulfilled. It'll be fully fulfilled when I build on these two research bases.
Construction project concluded.
Okay, so I just researched physics lab. Obviously, power plant is a very powerful research that will be next. My colony ship has spawned, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the colony ship, if I select it and right click on my fleet, they're going to follow my fleet, and my fleet is going to engage on these enemies in just a minute. One thing I'm going to need to do is to make sure I don't go bankrupt in the meanwhile. So I'm going to do a little shuffling around and put my researcher onto a power plant node and build that node up. So I just got another tradition. This one is really helpful. Gain unity, the equivalent to 3 months production whenever a new technology is researched. I really like that one. That one's quite powerful. Alright, so they're about to blow up this research base, and then they'll go after the outpost. And the outpost actually has a bit of a military might to it.
Offline.
No, actually, they're moving to... oh, nice. They are actually traveling towards me, and they're going to sort of self-immolate on my home base system. So all I have to do is wait for them to do that. It works for me.
System survey concluded.
So what will happen here is they're going to fly past my starport, and I'm telling my ships right now not to flee. And once they engage the starport is way stronger than they are, so they're gonna die. The one of the enclaves that I just made contact with is the artist troop. They help with unity, basically. That's the long and short of it. here we go. The starport just got engaged. My fleet just got engaged. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send my non-combat ships down to the system
Anomaly found.
they were at before. I've lost one ship, but oh, two ships. But in the end, they lost the remainder of their fleet. So I'm going to send this fleet back to the starport to lower costs. Keep in mind my starport has, or starbase, starport really, has a crew quarters, which decreases the cost of maintaining ships when they're in orbit. And I have defeated that
Construction project concluded.
Invader, that pirate. So here is a potential colony. I'm going to colonize here. That maximizes some of the adjacency bonuses. So if you look at that again, yes, I'm getting rid of one engineering research, but I have adjacency bonuses, 2 for energy and 2 for minerals, which is kind of nice.
Construction project concluded.
So there is a pirate base at Gomesia, which I am going to need to destroy. They're not nearly as hard as the fleet themselves. They're not that difficult to destroy. But it's something I'll need to do before I can take over Gomesia's territory. And once I get 3 more minerals, I'll be able to fulfill my researcher mandate. I need just 2 more bases, and I have 2 bases queued up and currently building right now. So unless my leader dies of old age, which is unlikely at 59, I'll have that done. And now I have my colony ship hitting Breek to colonize my first expansion.
Construction project concluded.
I'm a little, truth be told, I'm a little slow. Normally I would have had to, I would have already like expanded to and colonized by now, but
Initial colonization phase.
taking it a little bit slow. So it will take an estimated 49 months for me to set up an initial colony on this planet, and in those 49 months, I'm paying 8 energy per month in order to support that fledgling colony. It does take a little bit of resources and investment to get a new colony off the ground.
Construction project concluded.
So I gained 75 unity, which
Anomaly found.
is pretty good. It's the equivalent of 6 months or so of unity gain by fulfilling that mandate there. So the next things I need to do is I need to get some corvettes. I think 3 or 4 corvettes total will be enough to punch a hole
Anomaly found.
in that pirate base that's set up there.
Construction
So as you can see, this
concluded.
construction ship I have moved to the system, and there's a pirate base of 72 strength just kind of sitting there. That is pretty much the same strength as 2 of my corvettes, but I'd rather than throwing them into almost a stalemate, which could get them destroyed, I'll just
Anomaly found.
build 2 more ships and plan to overwhelm them by military superiority rather than, gamble on people's lives. So I'm kind of curious why I haven't found any neighbors so far. I don't mind that per se, because it does make my my life a little easier that I don't have some sort of AI empire breathing down my neck. But it seems a little unusual, I think, if anything else, that I haven't been pushed. So I just reactivated the Map the Stars
Horizons expanded.
edict, which means I'm not going to be able to expand my territory quite yet. I'm going to have to wait for more influence, but I do like anomalies, as I said before, and I think they're potentially tips the scales of power when you have very profitable worlds and your enemy does not. You can essentially out economy them. So I'm building the last Corvette I need to be able to go and destroy the pirate base. One of the advantages of destroying the pirate base. Ooh, so I just met my first AI empire. So I can choose how to greet them. It doesn't really have a bearing. We won't likely see eye to eye because they are slaving despots, which means they're authoritarian and xenophobes, and I am the opposite of authoritarian. But it looks like they're to my west. It's not likely I'm going to be able to get Zempek, the choke point, before they do, but it's possible I can get Nimbus, so I'm not locked out of heading south. That's I guess my current concern is not to get blocked out.
Construction project concluded.
Right. So now I have a fleet of just about double the strength of the pirate base, so there's no issue there. Taking that over. And actually, you know what? I'm going to just wait. I was going to expand my territory that way, but I'd rather head west, knowing that there's enemies closer to my west. And they're like I said, they're likely to be enemies given their ethos. They like me at -40, which is pretty bad. They haven't yet closed their borders to me, but I think honestly that's probably only a matter of time. So I just unlocked some pretty important research, which is power plants level 2, which will allow me to get more power out of power territory. You tend to want to upgrade the ones that have adjacency bonuses first, which means next to your capital, and then eventually upgrade all the others, which is handy because my power is at a net 0 right now. I'm actually netting a negative fraction. That will change pretty shortly here. So I'm sending my construction ship in to orbit the star that I'll build the outpost at, because their pirate base is in the process of being destroyed. And my ships, you can see the blue is shields, the green is hull. My ships are not doing that badly. I might lose a Corvette, I might not. Sometimes when ships are low, they go in kind of like retreat mode, where they don't actually physically retreat, but they like back up to share damage. This isn't happening at the moment, where my Corvette is still getting hammered, but it's just one little Corvette. It's not, in the big scheme of things, not that big of a deal. If I lose a single one. Ideally, I would lose none, and it looks like... Yep, so as you can see, one of the Corvettes went into retreat mode right at the end there, and I was able to defeat the pirate base. And in defeating the pirate base, I gain resources. I gain minerals and energy. So as you can see, I have more minerals and energy than I had before. Because I get rewarded for blowing them up. Well, not rewarded. I basically reclaim the resources that they took by piracy, I guess. But it's not actually physically yeah, it's weird. They existed, and in doing so, they amassed wealth, and I stole their wealth. Or liberated, however you want to see it. So it looks to me like my neighbors here, the slaving despots, are also Alpine. So by default, when you start, you have a few Alpine, or a few of the worlds around you of your defaulted type. So if you start as continental, you'll have a few continental worlds. If you start as Alpine, you'll have a few Alpine worlds. So because I'm Alpine and they're Alpine, their worlds are worth something to me more than they would otherwise be. Because if I capture them, I can also settle them. If they were, let's say, desert, their worlds would be a lot less useful to me. I could put my robots there that don't care about the biome, but my own species, my non-robots, care about biome. So if I was to settle a desert world, let's say, as an Alpine person, it would make my people very, very unhappy. So, for instance, this ocean world, which is not of Alpine type, has a habitability of 10%. That means that my civilians on that planet could only have a maximum happiness of 10%. That's pretty bad. Okay, so I don't need assist research, but that means I do get the Discovery 5-set finisher, which, if you look here, gives me 10% additional research, and then it also unlocks Ascension perk, and I'm going to go with One Vision, which attracts my citizens to my ethic, governing ethics, which means my citizens are either going to become egalitarian or materialist, and not something else, which is important. And then if I look at factions right now, because I have 6 of my people belonging to the scientific faction, I gain additional influence, which is very key. I gain additional influence from the faction's happiness, and then the faction also has a bonus to happiness. So if I look here, I can see who belongs to the faction and who doesn't. The ones that don't belong to the faction have 65 happiness, and the other ones have 77 happiness, and that's a pretty significant jump in productivity.
Construction project concluded.
It doesn't even look like they might get Zembek if I really focus. Actually, you know what? Stop. I'm going to try to push my neighbors out of being able to get this area. Alright, so I just finished biolabs. My next research, I think, will be off-world trading, which will help with my energy credits. And then because I've unlocked biolab, I'm able to upgrade this science lab to a biolab once I had enough minerals to do it. So as you can see here, because I have an additional colony, getting additional traditions cost 20% more, plus the 7 systems that I have. So as you can see, when you go wide and have a lot of territories and a lot of colonies, it can get extraordinarily expensive to gain more traditions in science. So sometimes it's better to grow tall than wide, and I was trying to explain this in the last episode. It really depends on what your goals are. So for my goal right now, I'm going long but not wide. I'm trying to basically
Anomalous readings
capture as many of the choke points as possible, so I can potentially control the important territory. But I'm not worrying so much about not being wide. I'm kind of planning on being a mix of tall and wide, I guess is the way to put it. So one expensive thing that I need to save up for is a starport here, which will cost me 270. Outposts can't have modules or buildings, but starports can. And I tend to build starports at choke points or on interesting systems, like ones with black holes, because that will add physics research. Or, of course, on populated systems, which will add trading posts, which is quite handy. Alright, here's a scientist I'd like to recruit, had I the money. So here's an eager one, which has a lower recruitment cost. Just so that you can see. So it is very, very possible that I actually get Zempek before they do. I'm getting pretty close. I'd love to be able to lock them out of Zempek. Because then that would make this whole territory here sort of mine to control. You know, it's the same as when I get Takia. This whole area becomes like mine, and it becomes difficult for an enemy to claim it and to control
Anomaly
it.
Found.
However, the more systems that you survey but don't control increases your piracy. So here, high piracy risk. Literally, as I say that, I get a high piracy risk. And what that is the more places you know of, the more like empty territory that you know of, the more likely you are to have pirates move in. So sometimes when you survey wide and far fast, you end up with a high likelihood of pirates.
Tile blocker cleared.
Which for me is fine, because it's just a way for me to, you know, it's more, I suspect, people to kill. But for some players, it will pose more trouble than it's worth. So that's something also to consider. So, for instance, the territories that I control personally can't have pirates, but Turius or Takia or Zempek or Distal or Rule, these all these territories, they all have the potentiality to harbor pirates. But pirates couldn't move into unknowns. It's just not the way the game works. For better or for worse. So now I've sighted the pirates, so if I pause the game, the pirates are at Distal, which is somewhat distant to my core. It depends on the strength of their fleet.
Phase complete.
And right as I am at Distal, let me Nimbus, right? Let me reallocate some of the things I'm spending. So instead of building another mining station, I have set up for another ship, because I know I'm going to have to be in combat at Distal soon. One way I haven't really surveyed is south. I've gone west and east, but not south. There is really no north. There's like
hostile IFF signatures detected.
So this is a fleet of 259, which means that I am going to want to build up my own fleet a bit stronger before taking them on, or I'll suffer losses.
Spaceports sustaining damage.
So they're attacking my spaceport, and my spaceport will weaken them up. This spaceport I have isn't particularly strong, but
Research concluded.
it will soften them up a little bit. So I'm going to recruit an admiral to captain my ships and send my ships down to them. I just unlocked blue lasers, so actually, let's pause for a second. First, we will set up a new research tree, so I'm going to get survey speed. Then I'm going to go to ship designer, go to the corvettes, and pop my upgraded lasers and my afterburners into the ships. And this will make the ships more expensive, but more powerful at the same time. And then I'm going to upgrade my fleet, which shouldn't take too long.
Fleet
They're done.
enhancement supplied.
So I went from like 194 to 254 through that upgrade, which means my ships are obviously a bit stronger than they were just moments ago. I also got a
Construction project concluded.
a prompt that I have a new faction. So generally speaking, your factions should mirror your ethics. So I have I'm egalitarian and materialistic. So my factions are, let's just rename these. Science faction. That'll just make it easier. And egalitarian faction. Or really this should be materialistic faction, but I think of materialistic as science. So the egalitarian faction has about as many supporters as the science faction and yields about the same amount of influence. Yes. So as a result, I'm getting, some additional influence, which can be spent for expanding territories and the like from my factions.
Anomaly found.
I have a unbelievable amount of anomalies to research at this point. I've been... Oh, a Tomb World. Tomb Worlds are like worlds that are post-nuclear apocalypse. They are colonizable. You can terraform them back to being even better. Or there are also some species that prefer Tomb Worlds. There's even a trait you can take at the start of the game to make it so that you prefer Tomb Worlds. Alright, so now my fleet is moseying on over to this fleet. This fleet is still hammering away on my outpost. It takes a while. These battles take weeks, months even. And I am building the starbase that locks...
Anomaly found.
that locks Belmacosa. Belmacosa, yeah. That locks Belmacosa out of my territory, which is... Or not my territory, but potentially territory I would like to move into.
Construction project concluded.
Which is pretty freaking handy. So if they wanted to expand my way, they'd have to do a two jump hop, which is more influence. And AI, and even players alike, are far less likely to do a 2 influence hop, because it's twice the cost of, getting territories. So this raiding pirate just knocked the station out from functioning, which is fine because I have my fleet that's rolling in just to clean them up. There's not going to be much left of their fleet in a moment. They soften themselves up on my outpost, and then my fleet rolls in and cleans them up. And then, of course, there's still the fact that Distal has the pirate base, so I've just set my fleet to attack everything, attack all enemies that are within a system. and I'm just
System
having them head to Distal to blow up that pirate base. So what I'm doing now is, rather than keep, actually I'm going to survey one more. I'm going to survey this system, and then I'm going to start going back to anomalies. Because at some point I've surveyed enough of the choke points, and it behooves me to instead of keep searching the edge of the choke points, actually improve the resources I get from the territories I have.
Evading hostiles.
Okay, so in this system that I wanted to survey, there is some really powerful enemies that I can't at this moment fight. So my scientist is set up to automatically retreat, because these are some really powerful alien vessels. There are how to explain this? There are AI that are controlled, that act as civilizations, and then there's some AI enemies that are just like events. They usually guard a certain position,
System survey concluded.
and you have to. When you kill them, you can research their corpses for science and the like. What I did just here is, sometimes when you discover aliens, you can research it to sort of unlock research bonuses. So if I meet another player, like let's say I was in multiplayer, initially we have no contact, and I have to research their language to be able to communicate. So that's kind of what I'm doing, but definitely with AI. I don't know whether it's an alcove, an enclave rather, like this artisan troop, or probably not. Alright, so that pirate base is now raided. I'm going to send my fleet home.
Construction project concluded.
And at this point, what I'm doing is I am trying to build up my mineral economy. If you right-click some of these indicators, it minimizes the warnings or whatever, because I don't need them.
Special project concluded.
So actually, one project that I really should have been doing all along is the monument. Okay, so the special project I was working on is Void Clouds, which allows me to do a cloud study research for 1,000 physics, but that's a little expensive right now, considering I'm getting 25 a turn. That takes 250 months, so I'm going to not do that. And I have some science ships that are researching the anomalies that I've already found and unlocked. Speaking of research, yes, there was a scientist that I wanted. Let's replace him with this one. And then this scientist, who's already level 55, will do some more anomaly research once I have the money.
Research concluded.
Okay, so now I have my first robot modification point, which means I'm going to select level 2 mining, which means I can then create a template from my robots and add something like power drills to them. Create the template and then apply it across all my worlds, and within 40 months, all of my robots will be equipped with power drills. So I'm going to cancel this robot. Actually, let me do that over again. Let's cancel this, and go back to Breek and build a power drill robot. That will lower the cost. So now if I go and I have to wait 26 days for this to disappear.
Construction project concluded.
Okay, so now it's failed. Alright, so let's try this again. Species. Apply this template just to Triac. 37 months. I shaved 3 months off of it. Because I canceled the robot I had built here and replaced it with a power drill robot. So the pirates I destroyed here have some interesting traces of weapons and armor and stuff, which is
System survey
something I'm going to want to research with my researcher. So here's my other researcher, and with my other researcher I'm going to double back and start researching the anomalies that are easier. I'm going to skip over the really, really tough anomalies until he's slightly higher level. Or until a different researcher does it.
Concluded.
So one thing that you'll notice is these tile blockers now are red, and this means I'm missing research to be able to remove them. So on your home world, you're going to be able to remove all of the tile blockers by default, because it's your home world, you know how it works, you have the research to fix it up. But if I wanted to create more space on Breek, primarily I would need climate control network, which removes glaciers, and then I would also probably eventually want dangerous wildlife removal, which removes these predators that predate my people. And that will allow me to expand to those tiles.
Project concluded.
So I know, just from experience, that I likely have one more colonizable world near Triath, and it's probably south of me, or maybe one of these two spots that I need to probably survey and do it soon. Because the sooner you expand in that way, sort of, it's like getting the snowball rolling. The more powerful you'll be later on.
Construction project concluded.
So at this point, I am just trying to exploit all the resources of the places I have territories on, because it really doesn't make sense to have all these territories and not exploit those resources. So I am building mining and research everywhere I can. And right there you can see an example of holding shift to queue up. So what this guy is doing is building a research base on this physics and then moving to Nimbus automatically. And some of the anomalies I'm researching, like the last anomaly I researched here, increased this Mendoc 2 to have 3 minerals instead of 0. You know, there's a lot of things you can do in that way. So this symbol here means that I have a pop that's working but lacks a building. So I'm going to build hydroponic farm there. And now I have the opportunity to adopt a new tradition. So I'm sort of on the fence between, and I'll probably do Harmony. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do Harmony. So the adoption of Harmony is my populations grow faster, and then when I'm done, my populations are happier.
Project concluded.
Oh, so I did a research project in Distal, which yielded a lot of energy credits. Sort of the harder the anomaly, the larger the sort of reward. So now I have 1,000 energy credits, and that makes me think maybe I reach out to the artisan troop and become a patron. So what this does is I pay them 1,000 energy credits, and they increase my monthly unity by 10%.
Research concluded.
And likewise, there are similar benefits if you find Research Enclave as well. They can increase your research speed, but I haven't met one of those yet.
Construction project concluded.
So my piracy risk is now 0%. That is because I've recently blown up some pirates. They won't keep spawning on you like wave after wave. It's kind of a friendly thing that they do. But there we go. Now, literally as I say it, my piracy risk jumps back up because the cooldown for blowing up my pirate base had disappeared. So one thing you can do often is to check back to see if there's any new technologies. If you don't want to generate your own ship designs, you can tell them to auto-generate, but it's not necessarily going to make the best ship. In fact, it could make a very dumb ship. That happens a lot. So you should be careful with sort of the auto-generate designs. Like sometimes they'll make ships that are anti-missile frigates, but your enemy doesn't use missiles. So in effect, your ships, it's like throwing rock when you know the enemy has paper in a rock, paper, scissors shoot game. It's just not that wise.
Construction project concluded.
So what I'm going to do for a minute is to save up so I can build another starport.
Shipwreck studied.
And we just researched the shipwreck. So what this did was it gave us 10% of what we needed for autocannons, 10% for ceramo metal materials, which is like ship armor, 10% for gravitic sensors, which is sensor range and hit chance for ships, 10% for ion thrusters, which is like moving around faster, and some physics and engineering research. Basically, it is very, very good to research the debris of ships most of the time. Sometimes the benefits don't outweigh the time it takes to do it, but you're always told what the benefits are by mousing over the debris. There is, however, a tradition that can prevent your enemies from ever reverse engineering debris too. So if you have a huge technological edge on all the enemies, you can keep that edge by adopting the tradition that stops them from ever knowing how to reverse engineer your ships, which is the let's see which it is. Now that it's this one, enigmatic engineering. It improves your sensor range and then prevents them from reverse engineering your stuff. Pretty handy if you're doing a lot of PvP with human players, because human players will very often reverse engineer at much higher likelihood than let's say a computer, where the computer just either won't or won't care to or won't even use the research to their benefit. They'll research a really good weapon and then just not use it. The AI is pretty decent, but they're not brilliant. For instance, I'm just going to declare these guys rivals. My rivals here, if they were smart, they would have really rushed for Zempek, but they didn't. So the way the rivalry system works is it allows you to I can like make claims with influence on his territories, and then I can go to war to claim those territories. I'm not ready for the war part yet, but
Situation log.
naming him a rival gives me some more influence per turn. It gives me half an influence per turn over not naming him a rival. So it benefits me, considering I'm not likely as an egalitarian to really ever align myself with a fanatic authoritarian, because we're very opposite ends of the spectrum there. They're almost always going to dislike me by default and distrust me by default. So I might as well benefit from that relationship by marking him as a rival and gaining influence for that designation. So here's a great example of the power of anomalies. I just got 4 more minerals that I can mine out of a system just because I had an anomaly. And this is why, yeah, it's a little risky because it's like gambling to do map the stars, because map the stars is pretty expensive and can really getting that can really slow down your population growth or your territory growth. But on the other hand, at times it can really benefit you. So one of the things I'm about to do is I'm about to finish this special project, and what this will do is all of the robots I currently have, like these, will next month have power drills installed. So there they are. Concluded. There's the power drills. And as you can see, my minerals went up as a result. So now if I go to the species tab, I have one type of robot, and that template, all the robots that I have, and I can rename these whatever kind of robots I want, but all these robots will have power drills installed. And I could always take the power drills off and put something else on if I wanted to. But for now, I'd rather have them have power drills, so they do. And I can still build the old style robots, but I'd obviously rather not, because they're inferior at this point. And there's no cost to those power drills other than a trait point. So it's not like those power drilling robots have a higher upkeep. They're just better. There's nothing but a benefit there.
Construction project concluded.
Okay, so here's an interesting anomaly. It's called the Prince. I know what happens here, but let's go ahead and agree to analyze the Prince back at a home base. So this will take 5 months, and during those 5 months, our societal research will come to a halt. We also have orbital research mission to fulfill. One thing I didn't notice is, yes, so okay, let's go ahead and remember to make a research ship next chance we get. So if you look, busy with a special project called the Prince, rather than pushing ahead on glacier mitigation research. And another good thing happened, we just got another starbase. So starbases are kind of categorized. There are sort of defense starbases, economic starbases, anchorage starbases, and trade starbases, and the one at Breek is going to be a trade starbase. Most of the ones that orbit, most of the starbases in inhabited systems I make trade. Almost always. There's very, very, very few exceptions to that. Okay, this is great. So another thing I just found on a Anomaly is dark matter, which is a very strong, very rare, powerful resource that I'm going to want to get. So I'm going to want to capture Mendoc, the system, soon, if I can. I won't be able to utilize the dark matter, but I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So the Prince. So the Prince just finished. It translates to regional ruler, and then there's a few things I can do. I can sort of dig into the secrets for 40 influence, return it to the country that sort of wrote this, which is the Belmacosa, or insult their ideas. And I don't really care to talk to them, so I'm just going to turn this into influence instead. But that would have been a way for me to build a reputation with them and befriend them more if I returned it, or maybe ransomed it back to them if I did not. I obviously did not choose to go those routes. I just wanted the influence.
Construction project concluded.
So I still need the research ship that I set out to obtain, but haven't yet.
Concluded.
I keep finding myself with other things that I'm doing.
Situation log
Automated
updated.
shipyard. So the automated shipyard, usually when you repair the shipyard, I'll have to do it with a construction ship, but I'll be given some ships as
Construction
reward,
project concluded.
which is not bad.
Construction project concluded.
So I've researched all of the
Construction
anomalies
project
on
concluded.
Mendoc. So Mendoc, as you can see now, is quite a profitable system, just because of all the anomalies I found.
Evading hostiles.
All right, and then we have another set of pirates. I had a research ship in the same system when the pirates spawned. They're actually, this research ship is
Evading hostiles.
trying to commit suicide. So I'm taking him off of auto evasion because he was going the wrong way, basically, and taking over and telling him to flee more intelligently. So this fleet is certainly stronger than I am at the moment. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to use some of my influence to get research grants, which gives me another 10% research speed. So if you look at these percentages now, they're starting to add up. I'm starting to turn a little bit of research into a lot of research because of all the bonuses I've unlocked. That is definitely one way to surpass. So if I look at my neighbor, for instance, his fleet power is superior to mine, but his technology level is inferior, which means I surpass him in research. He has a bigger fleet, which is pretty straightforward. I really don't have much of a fleet, right now, but I've a decently strong economy that will allow me to build up a fleet rapidly if I want.
Construction project concluded.
So I think I'll build one more ship and then send them to help in Zempek.
Construction project concluded.
Because by the time I get there, they'll be weakened a bit, and I'll be a bit stronger, I hope. So at this point, my economy is strong enough that I'm trying to expand my minerals rather than my energy. Energy will always be second fiddle to minerals most of the time. There are times where you're going to want a lot more energy, like when you're terraforming and the like, but for the most part, minerals, especially early game, are kind of the currency to have. Now, if I want even more energy, I could build an off-world trading company, which gives me 2 more energy per trading hub. And that way I'm sort of maxing out how much energy I can get.
Station sustaining damage.
We'll save up for that. Alright, so this pirate fleet has destroyed one of my research bases, but it's a small price to pay. Alright, and what just happened now is these are marauders. So what they are is they're sort of like mercenaries for hire that will mess with me. I guess is the sort of the easiest way to understand it simply.
Construction project concluded.
Alright, so I just got another Anomaly, and it's a 50-50 of giving me some sort of rare resource. The one I got happens to be armor points, which is pretty cool. But yeah, once again, anomalies are awesome. So here's a little trick. Right now I have an orbital research mandate. What I'm going to do is I just broke one of my own research stations on purpose so that I can replace it. Because at the moment, the only research base I can build is at Zempek, and that's full of hostiles. So I need to go somewhere with it, right? I need to build a research station somewhere. So instead of sitting on my hands and waiting for more territory to be conquered, I can just blow up a research station I already had and build a research station back. A little weird, a little cheap, but it works.
Research concluded.
Alright, so I now have mining network level 2. I think the next most important one here is destroyers, although ceramo metal armor is pretty important as well. But destroyers are like the next size tier of ships. So, yeah. There is some min-maxing to be done. Sometimes you can have fleets of all corvettes, which is the smallest ships, and they'll still out-damage the big ships, but that's not always true. So it looks like the pirates have returned back to Distal, so I'm going to go engage them there, hoping that I have enough fleet strength, because I haven't really calculated it exactly. So at this point, I have one of my scientists researching the anomalies in my starting area, and then he will start researching the surrounding areas. So if we look at Distal,
project concluded.
They outnumber me, but they're also damaged. So they'll outshoot me, but they're damaged. The artists that I have contracted for Unity said they screwed up in some way, and they're offering me either minerals or influence. I'm going to take the minerals, because at this very moment I could use a little bit of extra minerals for all sorts of increasing my economy.
Initializing hostile engagement protocols.
So let's watch this engagement, see how we do. As you can see, they're stronger, but I think I'm catching up. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe not. I'm not. It's hard to be certain, right? But all right, let's just get some more research going. Now it looks like I made the right call. It's a fight I'm going to win, but not without my losses. Or it's a fight I'm going to basically tie. So at this point, all that's left... Yeah. I've weakened them up enough that they're not going to cause any trouble. I'm going to go and retreat with the remainder of my fleet. Oh, so what just happened was my leader just got the trait Intellectual, which increases the amount of science I can get from various
construction project
buildings within my territory, which is pretty nice. I'm going into the ship designer to make sure there are no improved parts that I can install. And there are. There's even better UV lasers. So now when I make a ship, they're going to be even a little stronger.
Construction project concluded.
If I check the leaders here, let's see, there might not be any leaders. Nope, no current leaders worth recruiting. One thing I need to also keep in mind is the bonus that I get from the Patron of the Arts does expire. So at some point I will need to amass another 1,000 energy, possibly even 2,000 energy, depending how large I become, to be able to pay them again if I want to keep my Unity gain up.
Construction project concluded.
So at the moment, I am working on replenishing and repairing my fleet that got busted up attacking that pirate base, and I should probably also have a larger standing navy, because at the moment, my neighbors are overwhelmingly more powerful than I am, because I essentially blew up my own fleet, and as a result, what happens is they'll get bold and think they can take me on. And they probably couldn't, because I'm guessing my economy allows for me to support a much larger fleet than theirs would. But that doesn't mean that I want them to attempt it unless I'm actually ready for war. Sometimes you can bait people into war that way.
Construction project concluded.
Look weak, but be strong.
Fleet enhancement supplied.
Alright, so at this point, I have a replenished fleet of 224 strength. If we look at them, they're all the same now. And I can go roll out to Distal, because I'm definitely strong enough to take on those pirates now.
Hostile IFF signatures detected.
Oh, looks like they're attacking me first. So I think it's becoming pretty quickly obvious how much benefit there is to anomalies, as I've turned this 3 energy, 3 physics into a 3 energy, 3 physics, 6 society, 3 engineering just by anomalies. I mean, the amount that I benefited there was pretty incredible. So the pirate fleet just destroyed themselves on Zempek, at Zempek. They basically fought until they died. So I am going to be sending my my expeditionary fleet to clean up their base. Once a planet hits a certain amount of population, you'll be able to upgrade your capital. So now both of my planets have planetary administration capitals that have a higher bonus, a higher adjacency bonus. They're just generally better. Okay, and now I'm given... One of the planets I was researching has a toxic wasteland, and it gives me an edict that improves my energy initiative. Also, this planet will give a lot of engineering research. So basically, the planet here destroyed itself through pollution. It's a toxic world, and some robots remain that are sort of like non-functional. But as a result, I can benefit from a improved energy initiative if I had the influence to do it, which allows me to lower my consumer gun costs, which saves me some minerals, and then research industry and material research faster, which I don't have one of those going right now. So I wouldn't at the moment benefit, but if my research was different, I would benefit.
Research concluded.
So now, at this point, planetary capital is really, really good, as is the fleet logistics office. I think I'm going to go planetary capital.
Construction project concluded.
And there is just a lot of various upgrading and maintenance to do. So this is I just accepted a special mission to go to the Zevin labs, which are here. Wow, I don't think I'm going to be getting there anytime soon for special weapons research, but it is pretty far out of the way. That's just by chance. So if you compare my territory to their territory, as you can see, I've gone very, very wide, sort of swallowing up all the control lanes, or however you want to call it, and you know, that's going to really limit their ability to spread. So I just got energy grid. Let's go ahead and get hyperlane 2. That allows me to teleport from system to system a little bit faster, which is handy.
Construction project concluded. Construction project concluded.
So here's their pirate base that I'm destroying. And if I slow this down, like if you wanted to play slow, you could actually see the combat play out sort of in real time. Or in slow-mo, rather. Of all the hits, yeah, you'd be able to see every time I make a hit, its hit points go down, so on and so forth. Probably not watching, especially not for small battles, but sometimes during like huge engagements, it's pretty cool to watch. But it's up to you. Alright, so I raided that pirate base. Let's head home. And there's some special research that is being offered if I analyze the debris of those battles. All right, pulsating stars. I'm just going to voluntarily do pretty much every special mission that I'm asked to do, just so that I'm maximizing the chances of seeing everything. But wow, time really does fly. I am out of time for the rest of this episode. In fact, I am over time. So if you have any questions, drop me a line. I hope I've done a good enough job of trying to explain everything I'm doing in sort of a very survey, quick way, not going deep into any systems, but sort of covering it as a review for, so it's not probably deep enough to learn from. And like I said, yeah, if you have any comments, just drop me a line, and I'll have to catch you all next time. Adios, everyone.